Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah, and we'll just give people a few seconds to join, and then we'll get started in about half a minute, talking about the content supply chain. Okay, so I guess that we can get started. People will start to join, but we can already start with the introduction. So good morning, everyone. We're here today for the webinar on the content supply chain and how technology can help you unlock the value within your content supply chain. And we'll start with a quick introduction. So first of all, good morning. My name is Caroline, and I am part of IO, where I'm the head of marketing technology, where I'm focusing on bringing together technology with your strategy and your people, ensuring that you make sure that your technology is actually enabling you and not just there. And today I brought also Sama from Optimizely to talk with me on the content supply chain.
Morning, everyone. My name is Sama. I work for Optimizely. I'm based in today not so sunny London. And I work with our customers on anything related to their digital strategy. So I've worked with many of our customers on this exact topic, content operations, and I'm really looking forward to spending some time with you today.
So maybe a little bit of a quick intro into IO for those who are not familiar to who we are. So IO is an agency, a blended agency, how we call it, where we bring together marketing technology, but also your content and your strategy, your creativity and your data all into one vision and one view for you. We work around experience, and experience is everything to help our customers not only just bring a message out there, but really make sure that we are relevant for your end customers and that we bring the right experience to them. We are located in 5 countries, focusing on Belgium and the Netherlands, but also in the Nordics as well. And we have over 2,000 experts in our agency. We work across industry and across different technologies, strategy, marketing, and communications. And we are here to help you bring that relevant message to your end customers. And then we have Optimizely here as well.
Yeah, to quickly introduce us, if you haven't heard of us, we are a full service digital experience technology provider, serving use cases kind of across the end-to-end content supply chain, which we'll talk about later. We have 10,000 global customers. We have been ranked several times as leaders in digital experience across analyst reports such as Gartner and Forrester. And we have a lot of amazing, amazing customers across Europe and globally as well that work with us on anything related to digital strategy.
Okay. Maybe a few quick things about the webinar itself. Feel free to ask any questions you want in the chat. We will answer them at the end of the webinar, so we'll not look at them during, but we will make sure that there is time to answer the questions afterwards. We will share as well the recording afterwards via email to everyone who was attending, and we will also share the slides. So if you have anything that you want additionally, please do send out a message and then we can help you with that. But know that you will get the recording and the slides afterwards. So then I guess we can kick off with the actual topics of today's webinar, where we'll talk about 4 main things. We'll talk a little bit first about what is a content supply chain and what are the key challenges that we see at our customers and how can we actually start mitigating them? How can we make sure that we look towards fixing the key struggles that our customers have in the content supply chain? We will talk as well about how can technology now help. It's an enabler within this entire story, but it's something that will be key in unlocking that full end-to-end content supply chain. We'll wrap it up with some key considerations, focusing on what should you think about when selecting the right technology for you, and what are also other things that you need to take into account in going to the next steps. So we'll start at the beginning. What is a content supply chain and what are the key challenges that we see? So the content supply chain, it starts with the very first planning phase. It's about having the right objectives, the right briefing, and structured process in your entire teams around your entire content and campaigning landscape. So it's about mapping out what do you want to achieve from a piece of content or a campaign, and how do you want to bring that to your end customers. But it's also about bringing those teams together and ensuring that everything that needs to be done to get that campaign or piece of content live is actually managed in a proper way. So it's about planning, but ensuring that it all gets streamlined as well. In the second phase, we'll look into the creation of the content. You all are very well aware that a lot of content needs to be created to enable all your ideas and campaigns. And all of this content, to be able to create that, it's a little bit of a blend these days between human creativity, but also automation and AI will play a role even more and more in the next coming months and years. So creating all of that content is, of course, a very important piece of the content supply chain, but it's not the only thing. Because after you've created that content, you also need to be able to organize it. You need to be able to set it up for reuse. You need to ensure that you can find it back. And that should at least be somehow centralized to make sure that you are aware within your entire organization what content gets created for which campaign or for which purpose, to then be able to see for the future what can be leveraged. The organized bit is very often a phase that is overlooked, or that is at least a little bit minimized, while it's actually very important to have a successful content supply chain. The delivery of the content comes after, of course, to distribute that across all the channels that you may need. And that can be either in an integrated or a manual way, but at least you need to make sure that the right person gets the right message at the right channel. Those mapping and that matching of content and audience is what happens in the delivering phase. It can be on any channel, so it doesn't have to be just a web channel or not even an online channel. It can also be part of an offline channel. So it's a bit bringing all of that content to be created, to be organized, and then to deliver it out to the right person. And then last but not least, we also have the analyze phase. In the analyze phase, we need to make sure that whatever gets delivered to your end customers gets analyzed and reviewed according to your objectives and your KPIs that you put in the planning phase. So it needs to be in relation to that, but also it needs to be mapped towards your overall goals or your overall objectives of your organization. We need to make this actionable and not just a report, well, hey, we got X amount of engagements and we have 15% opening rate. That's not really that important. It's really about making that actionable for your next campaigns, for your next content pieces, and learning from what your content actually brings to your end customers. When we talk about the content supply chain, it holds up these phases from the planning all the way up to analyzing it, but it also needs to tie back. It's a loop that goes round and round because every piece of content should be critically reviewed, analyzed to then optimize. And that's a bit where it's a supply chain that keeps on coming back. But as you see here on the bottom right, it's not just about content. It's also about bringing your process and your operating model together on top of this full supply chain, enabling that through technology in each specific phase, which can be separate or it can be holistic into one technology, and accelerate through AI or automation. There are several ways in each individual phase that you can have not only technology, but also AI have as an accelerator within that flow. So that's a bit the idea of the content supply chain in brief. And if you want more about that, I gave a previous webinar about this topic as well a while back, so you can always look it up. But this is what we're talking about when we say the content supply chain. There are different technologies that can enable this. As you see here, different logos, including the Optimizely one, where we see later on some examples on how this could be enabled through Optimizely. But now a few common challenges, because that's what we're here for, to understand a little bit what could be going wrong in this full content supply chain. And when we look at the first phase, the first topic, which is the planning phase, where you map out all the objectives and all the tasks that need to be done within that campaigning, you see here on the right a few key challenges that we see at our customers. First of all, there's a lot of disconnected tools. There's disconnected tools, there is disconnected process around those tools, and we see a lot of our customers mapping out their campaigns or their plannings within an Excel and emails being sent back and forth. And just having a little bit of a manual way of working depending on the person who is in charge at that moment in time. There's not really a holistic view or technology or tool that can enable you within that planning phase at many of our customers, while they do exist, as you will show later on. It's also very time consuming. The briefing and the guidelines and having everything structured is a lot of times not very efficiently done. A lot of people have different views, and a lot of people are just doing what they believe best, which is fine, but it's not really structured in a way for efficiency or structured in a way for optimizations, also in quality. And that coordination also comes then in play, because if you then need to work together with agencies or with any other internal divisions, which is often the case, then there's a lot of coordination needed. And that again, if indeed you have that disconnected toolings or briefings and guidelines, it's done in a very manual way, very inefficiently. Same goes a little bit for time spent in meetings and planning and all of that. That is again a little bit of overhead that could be reduced when you think about the full content supply chain and put maybe a little bit of a different mindset towards that. Objectives and campaigns and plans around that is also not always very straight put forward. The objectives that you might have for your campaigns need to be measured, and they need to be set at that moment in time, not while creating content or anything, because the content you actually create needs to be adapted towards that. But the unclear objectives is also very much a struggle that we see when starting campaigns. Not because people don't think about it, but often because there is no time to actually do that properly. And then last but not least here on the list is the unmapped dependencies, because it could be that campaigns are dependent on each other, the tasks are dependent on each other, or maybe not optimized. If you could have 2 or 3 campaigns that are running, for example, you have summer campaigns that are talking about summer holidays or anything like that, and you want to do 3 or 4 in a row, very often they are not really linked together, or different people need to do a similar task while they actually could be joined a little bit more efficiently together. So these are the most common struggles that we see within the planning phase at our customers, but it's really about working in a holistic, streamlined workflow way to put as much as possible all of the overhead to pay. So that's the common struggles we see at the planning phase. But also in the second layer between create, organize, and deliver, there's very often a lot of challenges that occur at our customers. It also starts with workflows. The documentation on what needs to be done, how should the approval workflow, etc. go. It very often also leads to confusion. It's often done on emails again, and not really visible for other people, causing, and there's a second point, causing a lot of delays and delay in time to market, which is, as I'm sure you're well aware here, very critical. In some of the important campaigns or important content pieces, time is of an essence, and that is very often where it goes wrong. The second point, or third point here on the list, is a very different point. It's about the consistency of the brand image. If you need to bring different messages and different campaigns out into the world, it's very difficult to get a consistent brand image out there, especially if the content is not centralized, so you cannot actually compare with who sees what and who is actually working on which element. The localization and personalization of the content takes a lot of time, especially if you need to do that manually, or if you need to do that separately, for example, for emails compared to website, compared to anything else. It's very cumbersome to actually create all of that. Localization and especially personalization will only grow. And that's also why this is a very important topic to talk about now. It's to stay relevant for your end customer in B2C, but also in B2B. It's more and more important to know what your end customers expect and to adjust your content towards that. The next point here on the list is the limited to no reuse of content between campaigns. We very often see at our customers, I was talking to a customer yesterday, where we see every single campaign, all content being created from scratch, and even worse, for the same campaign, not looking at what website does compared to what email does compared to what social does. And having that disconnected view and limited to no reuse of content between campaigns is also causing maybe a little bit that inconsistency, but also very much the time to market that gets higher. So it's very important to think about what can we reuse, what can we share between the different channels and between the different campaigns, moreover. So the reuse will be very important, and for that, the organization phase is very important to make sure that we can actually find back what we did for which campaign or for which audience. And then the difficulty matching audience with specific content across channels is also very much a common challenge, because it not only requires a lot of analysis to whom should receive which content, but also takes quite a lot of effort to set it all up if it's separate or dispersed between different systems. And if you don't have actionable insight, a lot of our customers are doing what they thought would be originally good, but are not then properly analyzed and are just moving along. So it's really about matching the right audience with the right content at the right channel. And that's also very often done in a manual way. So it's very difficult to do that. And in the last phase, we also see some common challenges in the analysis phase, where in most of our customers, actually, there is no single source of truth for the content and the metadata, anything that we want for visibility. So mapping that all out is very, very complex, especially if you then want to do some performance analysis. It needs to be done in a very manual way. There's a lot of mapping that needs to be done, and you need to know exactly what we are looking for. It's also very often the case that the optimization part of knowing what went well and what went wrong in a campaign is actually very limited at a lot of our customers and only retroactively done, while we can actually make sure that we optimize while a campaign is still live. And those kinds of actions require some very good and structured insights. The fragmented data make it very hard, of course, to measure that return on investment, but also to measure any other objectives that you may have. The data that you have could be across different systems. It could be in your analytics solution. It could be in a Power BI dashboard. It could be in your marketing automation solution, in your CDP, wherever you want it, but not centralized, not linked back to your content and your categorization on your content, etc. So making sure that that link exists allows you to measure across that return on investment. That's, of course, what we're here for, to make sure that whatever effort you put in there is relevant for your end customers and brings back value for you as a brand. So these are a few of the common challenges that we see, and I'm sure, Sama, that you also see that at your customers, see them coming back. But this is something that we jointly feel that is very, very important.
Yeah, totally. Especially when it comes to content reuse, we've seen that be a really, really big challenge. With one of our customers had 60% content that was getting basically never used at all for various reasons, whether it was like, it turns out that they didn't need it for that campaign, whether it was created in one part of the organization and another part of the organization wasn't aware. So that's something that has, been a huge sort of money pit in a way for a lot of customers, as well as wasteful in other ways as well.
Yeah, indeed. And that's where the analysis also comes in, that you can actually track that and that you can visualize that, well, hey, look at this. All of this effort is wasted. That's very important. Now, how can we start solving these challenges? Because it's, of course, what we're here for, to give you some tips and tricks on how can we move on and how can technology help here. But it's very important that this is more than technology. It's really about bringing the slide back, bringing the process and the operating model on top of this entire view. Technology only as an enabler and not as the holy grail. It's not there to solve everything, but it needs to be integrated with your way of working, with your people, and leveraging AI. And when we look at the types of elements that are needed, it's really about combining different perspectives that you see here onto the slide into a single mindset in the organization. We're not here to say that you should overthrow your entire organization, that everything from creation to delivery to analysis should be in one team. That will, in many of your organizations, not be a solution. But it's about making sure that the mindset in the organization is moving forward to this entire view. It's mapping the mindset towards we want to bring that relevant message, and we need every piece of the puzzle, we need every stakeholder involved into that vision. If we look at the 3 elements that are listed here, we have the brand and marketing strategy listed. We have the technology and the data, and the people, process, and operations. So if you start at the first one, it's about ensuring your strategy is tactical enough. There is a key tip that I often see at our customers, that strategy very often sticks at, yeah, this is our brand vision, and this is the idea that we want to bring to our customers, but not translating that into actionable items, translating that in low-level KPIs and objectives that it will actually bring that strategy to life. Making it tactical enough, just tactical enough, so that every campaign that you do can actually be linked back to that strategy. Real-life use cases, and also make sure that the information that you get from the analysis, from the insights that you get, feedback into that tactical layer as well. And of course, the more holistic strategic layer. It's there to accommodate, but it shouldn't also fixate you. Your tactical strategy, your brand and marketing strategy, should be there and should be flexible enough to allow for possibilities, to allow for things that you don't have in your control, things that switch around, because we all know that the plan that you make at the beginning of the year, it's only about 60% accurate. We very often see that customers are hanging tight to a strategy or plan or framework that was made at the beginning of the year, but it's really there to help guide you, but not to fixate you. And so that tactical layer of elements should be well enough defined so that you can accommodate all needs that are needed. The second part here is technology. And the technology, as I said a few times, is really an enabler and should allow for you to do this. But it's about selecting key technologies that will be central in all of this. It can be one or more technologies that allow all of this, but it should support that vision. It should feed back as well what is possible, because that's also something that we see very often, that technology is there, but only 10% is used. Think also back from what could we do and feed that back into your way of working. These specificities that you have as a brand and that you have as an industry should also be enabled with technologies. So don't believe that just buying 1 or 2 new tools will just be there and will solve all of your problems. It's there to enable you, but make sure that whatever gaps you may have can actually be complemented with specific items that you may need, or with enhancements of those technologies. And then we have the third layer, which is the people, process, and operations. People really are central. As I'm sure you're all aware, you cannot do anything of this without your people, without making sure that your people are not only enabled to do their jobs, but also put enough focus on what they're good at, put enough focus on where their time is needed, put enough focus on where creativity is actually needed, and not on manual tasks. And very importantly, what I've learned and that I can really give you as a tip, and I've talked about this with Sama as well, is the maturity of your people. Don't just put anything out there and say, this is how we'll now do it, without focusing on growing your people together with your capabilities of your tool stack and your strategy, because then it will never happen. So the maturity and your people should really be central in what you're talking about here, what you want to do, to make sure that it actually gets enabled. So this is a few topics that you really should keep in mind when you're talking about the content supply chain and what is important on making this happen. And don't think of this content supply chain as something that requires a major transformation across your entire organization. No, it's about focusing on the right elements of the things that I'm mentioning here to make a difference. To make a difference so that you can have a more streamlined content supply chain, but really to start changing that mindset in the organization. And that is something that technology can help with. Technology can help you achieve this. And that is also something that Sama will walk you through.
Thanks so much, Caroline. I'm really excited to talk about this because I think we talked about the different phases of the content supply chain and the importance of the strategy, the data, the people in bringing that all together. And as we describe it, the ideal technology should enable that mindset shift and that mindset change that Caroline was referencing earlier. So at Optimizely, we do this through what we call the world's first operating system for marketing, Optimizely One. And it Optimizely One is a suite. It is holistic and it includes kind of all of the main elements that you would want to focus on within your tech stack. But it's also modular. And so you don't necessarily have to buy the whole thing. You can sort of take different pieces of it based on your needs. And the nice thing about it is that it will integrate with whatever existing tech that you have in place as well. In terms of the different sort of components of Optimizely One, we have all the tools you need from planning, intake management for different agencies to the creation of that content and storing and organizing it that Caroline was referencing as being a key part to actually delivering that content across the different channels that you want to deliver it to, including the CMS, which could be a main delivery mechanism, and then optimizing each piece of content that goes out through personalization, through experimentation to make sure it's really landing with the specific audiences that you're looking at. And then finally, analysis, which, you know, is the most important part in a lot of ways of understanding, did it work? Are the different activations that we're looking at actually having the impact that we want? Is the content being used? How is it being used? And we enable that through Optimizely as well. And so the flywheel or the circle keeps turning, and we can re-inject those insights into future activations and campaigns as well. And all of this is overlaid by what we call Optimizely Opal, which is our agentic AI assistant. And I'll talk a little bit about those different features as well. So that is Optimizely One as a whole. But let's dig into the specific components. So, from a planning perspective, Optimizely has our content marketing platform enables planning in different ways, whether that's intake forms for different campaign requests, whether that is agency management for campaigns, and also visual calendars, workflow assignments as well. When it comes to integrating AI here, you can also use AI to ideate and create campaign briefs and plans as well. So, Optimizely Opal can actually suggest different campaign ideas, but it can also create campaign briefs based on your organization's specific context, specific layout for campaigns. And this was actually a very cumbersome process for one of our customers, which is an energy company, and they were having to manage like over 40,000 requests per year. So imagine if you had to build those requests and write them manually, and let's say each request takes 2 to 3 hours. That is a lot of hours just writing campaign briefs. And Opal actually makes that really easy because you can put in the parameters of the campaigns, and then it will create the brief in the exact right format that it needs to be in, and will assign also tasks and create different sort of components for each of the things. So let's say you want to have a blog post and a social media post and something else, then it will create different tasks and assignments for the different team members for each of those different activations within the campaign, for example. So that's kind of the planning phase. Now, thinking about the creation phase, um, our platform enables you to basically work within the tools that you want to work in as a content creator. So, even for agencies, so whether that's Figma or Adobe Creative Cloud or any other sort of design tool, you can work within that tool, but you can also integrate with the content marketing platform, which means that different reviewers, approvers, other members of the team can actually collaborate on that content, leave comments for edits, for instance, to be made. And that all occurs within the platform. So you don't have to leave or go to your email or switch between different tools to get the feedback. You get that feedback all in the same platform. You can upload different versions of that content to the platform. There's version history, so you can see how the content has evolved over time. And that enables the content to be much better, but it also enables different team members to really know what their role is within that creation process. So it's like, oh, it's your turn to review. Cool, I reviewed, I have this edit. Great, I'm gonna go make that change. So all of that is sort of documented within this space, and everyone has an awareness of the phase that the content is in. And then, of course, if you want to create net new content without, necessarily having to build it, we do have, you know, AI content creation capabilities. So whether that's image creation or copy creation, that is something that is also available and can be used. It's especially really impactful when you're creating different versions of the same content for personalization campaigns, for instance, where each audience might want to have a slightly different version of that initial piece of content. This can be really powerful in accelerating the ability to personalize. And then we talk about storage. So, you we have an integrated DAM, digital asset management solution, which enables managing brand approved assets. It's integrated with downstream channels, especially the CMS. So within the CMS interface, you can click the DAM button and you can actually pull in content. It is tagged with metadata. It's very easily findable. So that way, any sort of search that's done is really intuitive and easy to do. And you can actually also use more semantics or descriptive words. It doesn't have to be a2360.gpg or whatever. It can actually be a really intuitive naming convention. And AI really helps with that as well. So AI can help with the actual AI tagging of images to say, what's in the image, who's in the image, etc. And it can also help with auto resize, which is another area that I find is a big struggle for a lot of our customers. There's a bunch of different device sizes nowadays. There's mobile, there's tablets, there's also a lot of channels. And for each of those channels, you're going to need a different size of an image. And it can be really cumbersome to create either 10 different versions of the same thing in different sizes or to auto resize or to resize it yourself. So this auto resize capability with what we call smart focal points can enable doing that really smoothly, simply, and in an automated way. So all of that can be available for you. Then the next area is delivery. So I mentioned the CMS a few times. The CMS is built for marketers. So it's what you see is what you get: editing, drag and drop. You can make those changes really seamlessly. And there are headless capabilities, either through our headless CMS or delivered through GraphQL, which means that you can, publish to multiple channels, to multiple web pages at the same time. And that can really accelerate that delivery piece. I know that I've heard from a lot of our customers who have, let's say, different domains. When they want to publish the same thing to those domains, it's so cumbersome, time consuming to go to each domain. Whereas here, you can actually do it in a centralized way. And then from an AI perspective, I know Caroline was referencing earlier the localization piece as being a critical sort of element here. And so that's something that we are really invested in as well. To enable you to translate and localize at the click of a button, you can actually generate full web pages in a different language. So if you want to do it in Dutch or if you want to do it in Swedish, then you can very easily do that within Optimizely. And then also, one of the additional things that we've been working on is our industry marketing agent. So it's basically an agent that adapts content to different industry perspectives. For us as a B2B business and for IO as well, I think it's a critical thing because we want to make sure that whatever content we put out is super targeted towards our target industries. And this enables us to do that without spending enormous amounts of time researching, adapting, and sort of optimizing content for specific contexts. All right. The next area is optimization. So this is as you know, you've probably heard about us. We started off as a CMS, but also an optimization solution, A/B testing solution. So we are very passionate about data, and we are very passionate about optimization and personalization. And we offer a lot of different kind of ways to really make sure that that content lands, whether that's through recommendations, whether that's through rules-based personalization, or through experimentation. We also have a data platform with real-time segmentation capabilities, so that can also help you create and maintain audience profiles for the different audiences that you want to target to make sure that your content is landing with all of the different groups that you want to look at. And I think Caroline, you had a thought here that you wanted to share as well.
Yeah, indeed. It's about optimizations, right? So experimentation is already a good way to start looking at how is content actually performing. But it's really important here to take that back and to really make sure that that feeds back into your next campaigns. So experimentation to me is a very important part of delivering the right content and the relevant message to your end customers. But having all of the data also linked back to that categorized content is where the power really comes in. Having an individual campaign experimentation is fun and it's nice and it's good that you do it, but linking it back towards your bigger story and linking it back to your next campaigns is where the real power comes in. And then you can grow and grow and grow on top of that experimentation and on top of those personalizations as well. Empowering the right message is relevant for the right audience. That's where it comes in play. Now, difficulty here, in my experience at least, lies a little bit that you have maybe a bit less control over who sees what. And that sometimes feels a bit scary, at least in the conversations that I've had with my customers, that it could be a bit about losing control or letting go of control, I should say, of exactly having the power over who sees what. Now, let me say that it's really, really worth it, even though it looks a little bit scary, but really think about what you learn from the data and think about how you can optimize it further to really let the system help you bring the relevant message out there.
1,000% fully agree. And I think one thing that we've learned from about 15 years in the experimentation space is it's sometimes it's great to win, but actually sometimes the best insights that you get are from things that don't necessarily land because then you learn. And that learning can be really valuable as you continuously activate or you continuously optimize because you're always building that learning into your future activations. So yeah, fully agree. Also the control piece, it can be hard to let go, but it can also be really impactful as well. Last area is analysis. So we have several different kind of sort of modules that enable the best analysis possible. Within our experimentation tool, we have intuitive dashboards integrated with AI as well to help you kind of understand what you learned. Within our content marketing platform, we also have insights around content sort of statistics and content performance. Things like, how many times has this been used? Where is it being used? Those kinds of things to really give that additional sort of layer of understanding of like, is this valuable? Should we actually, should we even have it in the dam or should we maybe get rid of it? To be as efficient as possible as well. And then we also have segment insights to help understand, what audiences are there, what are the sizes of those audience with AI capabilities to suggest new segments and new audiences to look at. And then finally, the sort of crown jewel or our newest sort of addition to our suite is Optimizely Analytics, which enables warehouse native analytics. So dashboarding and analysis right in your data warehouse. So lots of different capabilities to explore for any analytics sort of use case to really help you infuse those learnings back into that flywheel, that circle, and continue to make your content better and better. Um, and I think that was, oh, yes, of course, Opal. So I spoke a lot about Opal before. It is infused throughout the entire sort of content supply chain within Optimizely. And these are some of the examples of the different use cases that we can support. Talked about a few of them, but there's a lot of them that I didn't have time to mention. So those are pretty great. And what makes Opal really special is that it is very brand aware and customized to your business's unique context and unique needs. It is trained on your way of doing things, your naming convention, your campaign brief setup, all of the things that make your company unique, to make sure that any content, any activation, any support that it is giving you is as accurate as possible and as relevant as possible, to really supercharge your capabilities as a marketer and help you scale your content operations. So it's there to really help you do that. And now I think Caroline has some sort of technology considerations to take us through.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Sama. There's a lot of interesting things that you just showed within the Optimizely platform, and as I'm sure that everyone here is aware, we are a technology agnostic kind of company where we really try to look back at what could actually help our customers, and we strongly believe that Optimizely is one of those solutions that could bring that to life. And that's what we're here to talk about. How can you now actually make that decision? And as Sama showed, it's possible to have that all into one, but it's also possible to have it modular and to really make sure that you make the right choice for you, that fits your landscape, that fits your way of working, that fits your digital maturity as well, because it's only as successful as you actually allow your people to be. So it's important to consider a few things while selecting technology that could enable this content supply chain. What I've listed here on my slide are some key considerations. Of course, there are always a few more, quite a few more. The list is sometimes endless in requirements or elements that need to be taken into account. But what we always see coming back that sometimes is forgotten are the elements that are listed here. So what are key considerations that we see at our customers that we help advise them on selecting the right technology is, first of all, is it compatible with the current landscape? Does it fit my MarTech or marketing technology or experience architecture as well? It's not only about a technical fit, but also about a functional fit. Is the element that I'm adding here, is there minimal overlap with what I have? Where is the overlap? But is there at least a little bit of overlap? You want to make sure that they're as compatible as possible to have a successful story. Also to make sure that people know what can be expected from a potential new or existing tool within the landscape. Within the content supply chain story, what should be your main content hub? What should be your central place for your content? It could be that there's more than one in specific cases, but let's say not more than two as a central element of all of your content, because otherwise it will become very, very difficult to manage it all, to analyze it all, to store it all, to organize it all, but also to create. It will be unclear on what needs to be uploaded where, created where, wherever. And that is very important to decide that across the full marketing channels, what will be the main content. What can we also leverage from existing tool stacks? It's not just about adding tools, right? It's about how to grow what you have. And that's also links back to the first topic. How can we make sure that it's compatible, but also that it is maximized with what we have? As I mentioned before, we very often see that tool stacks, especially in marketing, but also a little bit in the back end, only about 10, 15, maybe 20% of capabilities is actually used. And that's a pity, because a lot of these tools are spending a lot of time and effort and money in building those tools for you, but it should also be enabled within your organization. And I'm sure, Sama, that you experience that as well. Like Optimizely can offer so many things for you, some of which you've mentioned here, but the platform is so much more than that, that it's something that you should also dig into, and that we very often help our customers with, digging in what could we leverage more. Maturity, something I mentioned a few times. Maturity is key. Just putting a very strong tool in your organization will not fly if your people cannot work with them. And it's not about training. training. Anyone can follow a training and then sure, yeah, now magically I know how to use it. That's unfortunately not what happens. Training is a part of growing maturity, but it's more than just training. It's about changing the way that people work and not replacing their jobs with AI and ensuring that they don't feel that their job is replaced with AI or with automation or with technology in general, but making sure that they grow together with the capabilities that your tools now offer, and that they also work with them, and that they focus more on the added value that they can bring compared to just doing manual tasks. Use cases, of course, are still important as well. We haven't talked a lot about use cases here in this webinar, but of course we can talk about that for hours as well. What now actually do we want to do? What kind of campaigns do we have? What kind of channels do we have? What kind of challenges do we have now reaching our audience with our messages? And how do we make sure that those use cases are in place? It could be, for example, that a loyalty framework needs to be put in place, and we need to work on not only the value that we can bring for our customers, but maybe also the emotional attachment that we want to bring, etc. But it could be also in having a comparison in use cases between a bit more delight use cases that we want to bring towards our customers. What do we actually want to bring, and how good does our technology match that need? And building on top of that, the objectives. What are the key objectives, not only of you as a business, but also of your campaigns? And how do we actually bring that all together with the enablement of technology? Sama mentioned a few times AI and Opal within Optimizely, and AI is everywhere. I'm sure you're aware, but it's not so easy to get your hands dirty with or something, because it's just there in the tools, and sometimes you're not even aware that you're using AI. Sometimes it's a very active choice. Like if you want to put a prompt into an AI chatbot, of course, that's an active choice, but sometimes it's also in the background. How do you actually want to enable AI within your organization? Do you want to build something? Do you want to use what exists in tool stacks? Does that match your vision and also your security and compliance when we talk about AI? It's about making sure that it matches what you want today, but also grows with you as your organization grows. Now, all of these are considerations to be made on a non-technical level. I'm aware of that. Don't forget the technical layer and the technical integration that needs to be enabled as well. But for me, that's a given. That's the basis. That is almost never forgotten, if I should say, in selecting technologies. But these are equally important. We work with our customers selecting the right technology, because nobody gets happy. Also not people from Optimizely if we just select a platform that is actually not a fit, because then nobody will be happy. You will just have a 1-year contract, a 3-year contract, and then in the end, it won't get used. So that's really what we want to strive for, is making sure that it's a fit for you, for your organization, for your content supply chain, and then move on with it. Because we do strongly believe that when you have your content supply chain in place and you consider your strategy, your technology, and your people and process across the entire phases of your content supply chain, you can really do magic, and you can really bring a truly relevant message to your end customers on the right channel. So that's basically the main message that we wanted to give. Select the right technology to enable all of this. Don't forget about the rest, but technology can only bring you that far, but it will be important. Without technology, you can't do it. We've shown here today an example of Optimizely, how that could actually be done. It exists, it is out there, and it is underused right now. Let us help you basically and define a little bit where the technology could enable you in this entire story. But that was it from our side, unless Sama wants to add something. That's it in terms of the presentation. So thank you very much already. And I do see that we have one question in chat. So if you have more questions, please do ask them now. But I think the first question we have is maybe Sama for you to answer. It's about, is it possible to upload the company's naming convention to Opal to make it more relevant? But I believe that is the case. Please, Sama, explain.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Maria, for the question. Basically, at the moment, you can use the agents to optimize the naming convention to make it as relevant as possible within Opal Chat. And then the tags are based on a slightly different machine learning model. So it's currently not available to train it on that, but it will be, will be within the next kind of short while, basically. It's on the roadmap. It just currently isn't available yet. But the existing tagging mechanism works super well and is, commonly based on common conventions. So it will get you quite far. And then Mustafa, I think anyone registered for the webinar will receive the recording and the PowerPoint right after. So you should get it automatically. But we will share our emails in case you don't get it. Then we can share it with you as well. And this is our contact information as well for anyone wishing to have further discussions on this topic.
Indeed. You can always reach out, whether it's about the general topic or the mindset that you want to put within your organization or specific technology questions. You can always reach out, not only on Optimizely, but specifically here as well, of course. But then we can help you decide, is Optimizely the right fit for you? And why is it the right fit for you? Or are there other possibilities as well? Feel free to reach out. But also if you have direct questions to Sama, that's also, of course, possible. So thank you very much for attending. I hope you found it interesting. And as said, you will receive a follow-up email from us. I'll take you to the next step. And please do feel free to reach out if you have any further questions.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Any last questions, everyone?
I don't believe so. Okay, then thanks again and have a very nice day.
Have a good one.
Bye.